What's up, War Room? The boys are back from Vegas. Time for another episode. Joe Caporoso, Connor Rogers. Going to clear the inbox of Discord questions. We got a bunch of them covering a wide range of topics. NFL draft, Jets roster, Joe Douglas, Bryce Huff, free agents, everything. We're going to cover it all, and then we're going to do the pod where we'll talk about our time in Vegas in a little more detail and some next steps for the Jets offseason. CR, how you doing? How you feeling?
I'm good, man. Back on the East Coast time. Thank God. It was a great week, but a long week, and it's wild to say that another football season is officially over. It's truly crazy. And, the crux of it for us is that it was another disappointing outcome for the Jets, and the Jets go into another offseason that feels more pivotal than ever. I know I think we've been through everything. We've been through hey, let's slow down. Hey, we got to get this right, to now this is right, Joe? This is the closest one to put up or shut up. I mean, truly, if the Jets don't make the play, and I don't even know if making the playoffs is enough. I really don't. If the Jets don't do some kind of damage in the playoffs, things are going to get really hot for everyone.
We're back to the reset and the rebuild again. It's very rare that the stakes are kind of that clear, considering the age of the quarterback, the tenure of the GM, and the head coach. It's going to make for a fascinating offseason. And I got to tell you, it felt like, and this isn't a bad thing, it felt like the longest NFL season I could remember. I was thinking leaving the Super Bowl back to walking in week one to Jets-Bills, and I happened to be at both of those games, luckily enough. And I was like, man, that feels like 10 years have passed during this season.
It does.
And what's funny is that, like, there is no time to catch your breath, because we're right into a lot of critical decisions that Jets have to make in the draft process ramping up. So good time to clear the throat on the inbox. Good time to catch up on a range of topics. We got a ton of stuff hitting this month, which we'll get into a little more on the pod. But first one from Grubbs. There is a lot of smoke that J.J. McCarthy is loved in NFL circles and is going high. What type of package could the Jets get if teams want to get ahead of Vikings? And would you trade back if Olu or Alt were still on the board? I mean, I'll throw it to you quick, but my quick answer is, if Olu and Alt are still on the board at 10, if both of them are on the board, could you trade back one or two spots? I worry about the Jets getting cute, though. I just worry about them getting cute when they have such an acute need to tackle. But what do you think of that? And how real is the McCarthy hype? Or is this like Will Levis or like one of these other guys where they don't end up actually going as high as the hype goes?
If Alt's there, I don't know. Besides a flip, I don't think I move. I think that Alt is probably one of the 5 best players in this draft. I've said before that he's every bit as my favorite tackle I've ever evaluated. That was Penei Sewell. That year I had Trevor Lawrence and then Penei Sewell number 2. I mean, he's that good. I'm curious where he ultimately lands on my big board, because as I've been putting together the big board, I've become over the years where, like, I just don't give a shit if I put good players over quarterbacks anymore. I know that's not common in the industry, but I just sit there and I'm like, if I love Marvin Harrison Jr. and I love Joe Alt, why do I not just make them the best players in the draft and not care? Especially, I'm also a little scarred because you doing this job, you'll have guys in the first round of quarterback that are just going to miss. It's the rate that it's going to happen.
Most miss, it feels like at this point.
You're right. So let's go through the scenario, right? At 10, we went through that you just take almost no matter what. But let's play it like this. Let's say Alt's not there, because he shouldn't be. You feel pretty comfortable that he's gone. But we'll say everyone else is. You would think Minnesota, Denver, Vegas, those are comfortably in the mix for a quarterback. The Rams, I don't know. I think they're the type of team that'll just kind of run Stafford into the ground and keep trying to win and then worry about it later. Man, that's really it, right? I mean, sure, I don't think Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh, if Pittsburgh really wants to kind of put the fire under Kenny Pickett, I think they go to the pro market and get somebody that in theory could be an upgrade over him. I don't think they just keep drafting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I think New Orleans stays by Carr. When you look at the structure of the contract, it's just kind of the bed they made. So with that actually kind of bodes well for the Jets, because in theory, I've said this a lot. People are probably sick of hearing it. You would think Minnesota, Denver, and Vegas are wondering what each other are doing at that point. Where can somebody just go up a couple spots to the Jets? So let's, in theory, we'll say it's Denver at 12. We'll go right in the middle. Denver's trying to jump Minnesota and go to 10. The trade chart's not a perfect science, but the most modern one would have the Jets pick worth 1,300, Denver's pick worth 1,200. So about 100-point difference. 100 points is the equivalent of the 100th pick in the draft. That's one of the last picks in round 3. This is for a quarterback in theory, so let's juice up the price a little bit, and we'll call it 185, which is Denver's pick at 81. So the Jets would go back 2 spots and get pick 81 in the draft. That's not out of the realm of possibilities. And then in theory, I don't think Minnesota's taking a tackle in this draft. You are still getting, hopefully, Fashanu. Who knows what road this regime would go down. And that's how you'd accumulate an extra 3rd-round pick.
Okay. I mean, look, it's plausible. And I think we're going to see a lot of mock trade downs, along with some mock trade ups, even considering how aggressive the Jets may need to be. Some of it's going to depend how the trade market and the pro market plays out and how many glaring holes Jets are going into the draft with on the offensive line. And
you know what's funny? The most ideal trade partner for the Jets, in theory, is the Giants at 6.
They've traded before. Leonard Williams.
Bryce Hall.
Yeah, why not?
People forget the Jets moved, I believe, into the Giants pick to take Bryce Hall.
Listen, different conferences. Let's do business.
Oh, they don't. Shane and Douglas don't care at all. That's not a problem. It's just interesting because the Giants are really interesting because the Giants have a big decision to make with Evan Neal. If they're going to move him inside a guard, they stay at 6 and take a tackle. If they want to keep riding forward with him, trading out does, in theory, make some sense because they could still get a wide receiver or maybe Rock Bowers. The point is the Jets would, in my opinion, need to jump Tennessee. And then the cost of that, the problem with that is it would have to be for 2025 capital. The Jets can't afford to trade their only day 2 pick. They can't.
Yeah, they're a little hamstrung with the lack of total picks and how this year has been structured. And I don't think they're going to be that hesitant about trading 25 picks with the current situation, but let's see.
They don't care.
All right, next one.
Yeah. This goes back to why I would still tag Bryce Huff on the cheapest possible tag. I think the transition tag, because even if the worst case, we have to pay Bryce Huff for a year.
Seems like a good problem to have when you need to win next year.
The best case is you get something in return for somebody that needs a pass rusher. So I just don't get me started.
Yeah, I was walking into the Super Bowl angrily tweeting at Jet fans about Bryce Huff. I was guessing I was the only person there who was worried about that day. Anyway, from Tori, what's your confidence level that the team gets it right this offseason and makes the run we all hope for? It certainly goes by the definition of what is the run we all hope for, what is a pragmatic expectation. I do think that, I'll say this, and I'm guilty of this too. I think the vibes have probably swung a little too far in the negative direction at this point. Like, I do think there is a very real path with a healthy Aaron Rodgers and Bryce Hall and Garrett Wilson and a couple moves on offense and this defense and specials that the Jets can win 10 or 11 games next year. And that might be enough in the AFC East. And if you get into the playoffs, who the hell knows what could happen? If you get hot at the right time, the right guy gets hurt that you're playing against, you never know. I understand the skepticism. We've been plenty critical of Saleh and Douglas. My guess is that as of today, and this can change, my guess is they'll do an okay job this offseason because they're going to be so aggressive that inevitably the offense will improve on paper at least a little bit. I think they will make the playoffs next year if Rodgers is healthy for 15 plus games. How serious of a team they are in the playoffs, that I'm not sold on yet. I could see them being a Pittsburgh playoff team this year where you get in, but it's are you really a playoff team? That's kind of where I'm at with them right now. That changes if certain things go the right way in the offseason. But I will say I don't believe that they're going to start 2-7 and fire everybody, and this is going to be just a full ship burned down. I think it's more likely that they get kind of stuck in that weird mid area where they're 9-8 and they're the 6 or 7 seed and I don't know, lose by 7 wild card weekend. and we're going to spend 3 months fighting about whether they should like keep these guys or move on from them. That's kind of where I see them settling right now.
Yeah, I would say I'm between a 5